Hey y'all, this is Taylor, and it's time for our Sagittarius season transit video. Alright, so if you are joining me for the first time, welcome. This is where I give a breakdown of the transits and aspects happening during the astrological season. If you're returning, welcome back, and thanks for joining me. So you may know Sagittarius season starts on Saturday the 21st. And with that shift also comes Venus moving into Scorpio. So Sagittarius season for us is usually this really gregarious, abundant time. We're talking about holidays. We are wrapping up things in the year. We are sort of making lists of what we've experienced, maybe looking back at the stories that shaped the year. Obviously, that's going to be a bit different this year. And that is marked astrologically by all of the personal planets hitting the South Node, which has been moving through Sagittarius since earlier this year, about May or so. And so you may notice a bit of a different tone this year in how things we usually do no longer function that way. We'll see this culturally. Cultural markers that we are so highly accustomed to are now going to be forever changed, right? The ways in which we usually meet and share are completely different now. And we're definitely going to feel that in various points throughout this season. We're going to see how those changes are shaping this sort of new way of being that we're entering. And that makes sense with the South Node, because the South Node takes things away. But it does. It pulls us out of a previous place and makes space for what's incoming. Venus moving into Scorpio the same day is technically in detriment, but perhaps that's going to help us, or make us rather, consider our attitudes about sharing resources, and it's going to bring up for us where we experience fear surrounding our right to or deservingness of love, support, and a life of beauty. So Mercury's been moving through Scorpio for some time now. It retrograded in Scorpio. It's now finally done with its retrograde shadow. And so from this point, moving through some new space, able to determine the most strategic path toward what it is we've been talking about this whole time. This future that we've been trying to break into. It's largely to do with shifting into community well-being, right? How are we going to focus our attention into bolstering our communities, into strengthening neighborhoods? And so with that, Venus in Scorpio may bring up some interpersonal experiences that have shaped our blockages in terms of how we're going to get there. So on an interpersonal level, we have shadows and wounds and stories around where there hasn't been enough of something for us, whether we've been conditioned to believe that there's not going to be enough of something for us, or whether we've actually experienced something tangible in which we were deprived of something important. These may come up for us now, and it's going to be important for us to really recognize and bring to the table what these stories are and how they've shaped us, because we need to be able to start sharing resources, start collaborating in new ways. And so it's important for us to face these blockages in order to be able to move through them and move forward. The moon enters Pisces that evening and immediately brings us the first quarter moon at 0 degrees. So rewriting our stories means including everybody. And the pressure is on us now to truly consider what that actually means for us, as well as how we're going to start getting there. It's a time where we're building up to eclipse season. Woo! We really feel it now. And so big changes are coming. Eclipses, that's what they are, big changes. Neptune's part of this lunation, and it's also still retrograde, and so we are probably still in the dream state in terms of what's going to be possible for this new world, or whatever we're trying to move into. And we'll know more further into the season about what we need to release in order to get there. And it's good now at this time to just take note of where in your own life and your own current capacity you're feeling inclinations of future possibilities. Sunday the 22nd brings us a trine between Venus and Scorpio in Ceres in Pisces, which is a nice first aspect for Venus to have. Ceres is the goddess in charge of nurturing the people, tending the crops, making sure that there are resources for humans on Earth. And she's also vengeful and withholding when she's wronged. And it's a very valid expression. But it's important to understand where we feel that. And so This may bring up some of our nurturing wounds, but in a gentle way. And since Ceres is currently moving through retrograde shadow as well, it may be that we see some new resources, or we recognize new resources that we can give to some old wounds. Now, the next day, on the 23rd, we have the Sun square Ceres. So if we're rewriting old wounding stories, if we're giving new resources to old wounds, ultimately that means that who we're becoming needs to be updated in this new way as well. So it may be good to find where a comfortable way of being is actually interfering with our ability to share and receive nurturance with others. The moon is going to trine Mercury, conjoin Neptune, square the nodes, and then sextile Pluto and Jupiter on the same day. So this is a lot of activity, but ultimately it's hopefully making us more willing to have these conversations with ourselves, with those who can offer support or who may be involved in the situations. And ultimately, by taking a chance and having these conversations or unearthing these ideas, we can create a big shift towards our ultimate soul purpose. And also on the same day, Mercury in Scorpio trines Neptune in Pisces at 18 degrees. So this opens us up to a desire to experience something pleasant, maybe indulge in fantasy, and even dive into some spiritual queries as well. And this can be a good day to channel what these lessons are bringing up for us into an artistic or creative practice. The mutability of Pisces lends some flexibility to the fixedness of Scorpio. So this can be a nice way to integrate some new solutions, or some new outlets rather, to some old ways of thinking. The moon moves into Aries and trines the sun as well as conjoins Chiron on Tuesday the 24th. And this is a time where we may feel emotionally aligned. So even as we are experiencing our wounded self, as the moon hits Chiron, we're able to integrate some of the progress that we've made in terms of healing those wounds. On Thursday the 26th, the sun follows up and trines Chiron. So that gives us an even more in-depth connection to what these wounds are trying to tell us. It may not necessarily bring us a solution, but it means we can access it without triggering ourselves, if that makes sense. Friday the 27th brings us Mercury in Scorpio sextiling Pluto in Capricorn at 23 degrees. It also brings us an opposition between Venus in Scorpio and Uranus in Taurus. So this may be a day of upset. This may be a day of surprises. Venus may feel an urge to break free from while interacting with Uranus. But ultimately, Mercury and Pluto can allow us to dig more deeply and get some insight about what those urges are really trying to tell us. It's not likely the situation itself that we're trying to break out of, but rather a habit or a creature comfort, something that is familiar to us that we need to consciously walk away from. Saturday the 28th, the moon sextiles Neptune right before Neptune stations direct. So Neptune's been retrograde since summer, and this is a nice invitation for us to finally be able to tap into some of the idealism and compassion of Neptune. It's been a bleak summer, it's been a bleak fall. We have felt deeply out of touch with any sense of collectiveness, and so this is a time where we're finally granted access into those spaces. We are able to start thinking about what we want to build in a post-capitalistic world. We've been talking about it all year. Now this is the time that we can start kind of dreaming about what that life looks like. We may feel compelled to drift off to escape reality. I can't blame you, absolutely. But it may be more productive to rather tune into sort of our collective frequencies, tuning into how we can feel inspired and hopeful about creating a future outside of the chaos we've just encountered and are continuing to encounter. On the same day, Mercury in Scorpio sextiles Jupiter in Capricorn. So we're motivated to open up to the bigger picture here. We want to consider plans for the future. And it may be so compelling that we don't really want to pay attention to our ordinary lives. That may be boring for this moment. On this day, we're tuned into our patterns. We're able to focus on what we want. What do we want to be moving into? What do I need to do, or what patterns do I need to break in order to get into that place of getting to that place? Into that place of getting to that place. Sure. We're also really capable of negotiating at this time. So in whatever capacity that makes sense to you in your life, in your current situation, negotiating on this day, Saturday the 28th, is something that can bear something really fruitful. We're also really bolstered to work together at this time. Any research that we need to do in order to be planning, any research that we need to do or that we're already doing about what we are trying to get to can be very productive at this time. All right, now we've gotten to the first eclipse. It's the solar eclipse, the full moon in Gemini at 8 degrees. That's taking place on Monday the 30th. This is accompanied by Mercury in Scorpio, sextiling Saturn in Capricorn at 28 degrees. So here comes the first eclipse. Yay! The moon in Gemini is also going to be sextiling Mars, squaring Neptune, and conjoining the North Node. So this is quite an action-packed day. Eclipses don't tend to show us what the full picture of the meaning of the eclipse is until the days and weeks afterward. But with this interaction with Neptune and the nodes, we can definitely expect to have some illusions shattered, and they may have felt really important. We may feel like we're being stripped of something, but ultimately we need those illusions to be shattered in order to get to where we're going. That North Node is showing us, or trying to show us, this is the path forward. We need to break through what we've believed in order to actually see where we're going. This is a good time to just hold some space for anything that's coming up at this time. Again, days or even possibly weeks can be the length of time in which everything really unfolds. So just be gentle to yourself. We're going to be confronting some of this South Node energy all month. So just continue to ground, continue to hold space for yourself. Mercury sextiling Saturn is really helpful in that capacity. It can help stabilize us and allow us to see things that are sort of good and bad in more neutral light. Being able to see sort of the work that comes with what's being brought up, as well as preparing us to even maybe be willing to let some stuff go. If we feel like we're stable, we won't be so fearful, right? So in that stability, in that support, we can say, okay, good, bye. Yeah, yes, I am okay. All right, so right after the full moon in Gemini on the 30th, we open December on the 1st with Mercury moving into Sagittarius. So I think we can maybe feel a bit of relief as we move out of these Scorpio issues that we've been dealing with Mercury. All of the retrograde stuff can pass now, and we're shifting into a much more open, more mutable, more expansive way of thinking. It does mean we may lose track of some details. We may not really know what we're talking about, but we're very excited. Okay. We're tapping into some of the bigger stories and ideas in our lives, right? Now, on the same day, the moon moves into Cancer, which is not necessarily notable, but across Wednesday the 2nd and Thursday the 3rd, we have a lot of activity from the moon. On Wednesday the 2nd, we have a square to Chiron, a sextile to Uranus, and a trine to Venus. On Thursday the 3rd, we have a square to Mars, a trine to Neptune, and oppositions to both Pluto and Jupiter. So, this can be a really intense set of days. We may bump into something unresolved, yet in the same breath, we may open up to new solutions or revelations, and we're able to integrate those revelations into our current set of resources. On the 3rd, we're confronted by power struggles, both within ourselves and with others outside ourselves. We may be inclined to indulge in some fantasy in order to divert from this conflict, and we may ultimately just want to break away from everything and just say, fuck it, I'm out of here. So just be aware that this is sort of the energy of this time. Friday the 4th brings us a trine between Mercury and Sagittarius and Chiron and Aries. And so this gives us an opportunity to express the tension that we feel in these previous days, the 3rd and the 4th. Nope, the 2nd and the 3rd, and opening up to someone, hopefully trustworthy. Maybe this is a therapy appointment. This is calling up a trusted friend. But just finding a space where we can start giving word to these experiences, start expressing what it is that, what that's going on, even just to experience some catharsis from this pressure that's built up. Saturday the 5th brings us Venus in Scorpio trining Neptune and Pisces, and this can be really lovely because even though Venus is in detriment in Scorpio, we've got a boost from Neptune and Pisces, which is Venus's sign of exaltation. So it's kind of this nice blessing from Neptune. Here is some of your exalted energy. I pass it to you. And so we may, in the wake of these maybe confrontations or these disruptive emotions that come up, we can feel compassion for both ourselves as well as others. So this may bring some healing to some of these issues if they do involve other people. We can maybe see things from their side, or at least understand their perspective, at least have some compassion for what they may be going through as well. And that brings some general loveliness and healing to us, to our pain, to our heavy hearts. Monday the 7th, we see the moon in Virgo trine Uranus and square Mercury in Sag. And so that's really about integrating new information, or being able to gather new insight that ultimately challenges our current operating narrative. So who are we? What are these stories? This new information came in. I have to upgrade this way of thinking. Wednesday the 9th, we see the Sun square Neptune, as well as the moon in Libra opposing Chiron in Aries, and then sextiling Mercury and the Sun. So we may feel out of touch with reality on this day. We may just be really exhausted, especially because wounds keep resurfacing. We keep having to confront parts of ourselves from the past, confronting other people, and that ultimately may feel really exhausting at this time, really draining. Our confidence may be waning. We may not really have a great sense of self at this time, and we can also kind of be compelled to act deceptively or to create a sense of delusion for whatever reason. If it's possible, try to lean on someone at this time to release this energy rather than indulging that need to be deceptive. Releasing it and speaking it may help us see how these situations, or how this moment in time for us, is actually supporting our overall path. Thursday the 10th, we have Venus in Scorpio sextile Pluto in Capricorn at 23 degrees, and we also have the Sun in Sagittarius trine Mars in Aries at 19 degrees. So we are asked today to dive deeper into our feelings, as well as the role that they play in our interpersonal relationships. And on top of that, the larger systems that we are a part of. So how do my feelings play a role in my relationships, and how do my feelings play a role in how I engage with my outer world? We're part of this larger sort of experience that we're now getting a deeper understanding of piece by piece, right? So the energy itself can be intense, but it's important that we dive into it. We can use this transit to bring more depth to our friendships, and those are super important now. I've been saying all of these transits before. I'm like, reach out to friends, reach out to friends. Our friends are very important at this time. The intensity can yield an opportunity to express this energy physically or collaboratively. Mars is like, let me get this out, or let me work towards something. Let me work with others towards something important. Assertive energy is available for us right now, which is great, because with Mars being retrograde until recently, we have felt a lack of agency in that sense, and we are directly able to tune into that perhaps for the first time and say, okay, I'm working towards something, I feel it. Friday the 11th, we have the Sun and South Node conjunction. It's also happening while Mars in Aries sextiles the North Node, so it's sort of a contradictory feeling, but here's where I'm talking about that confrontation from the past. The Sun hitting the South Node is bringing up for us stories of who we've been, where we've been, what we've done, stories we've identified with, and we're re-examining those. What do these stories actually mean to me? Are they still who I am? Stories that we've carried culturally are coming up for scrutiny. Are these stories really our stories, or is this now false? Have I learned that something isn't true, actually? If we allow it, we can choose to move through this confrontation consciously, and we can choose our path forward. Sunday the 13th brings a square between Mercury in Sagittarius and Neptune in Pisces at 18 degrees. So I would expect mixed and potentially misleading messages at this time. It's a little bit like a mini Mercury retrograde. Things we say can be received incorrectly, or even like emails we send may not get there mysteriously. Things can be misunderstood, or things just completely misfire, right? So that Neptune fog again. It's possible that we want to avoid a conversation thinking it's a confrontation, or again that we may want to create more confusion or not be upfront about something or contort some sort of information. And I'll go ahead and say that that will probably not work right now. It will just make things worse. And we could even get caught up in some confusing external events, and it's best maybe right now to not take everything at face value. We're at the second eclipse, the lunar eclipse, the new moon in Sagittarius at 23 degrees. This is Monday the 14th. This is the same day that Mercury is now hitting the south node at 19 degrees. Venus in Scorpio sextiles Jupiter in Capricorn at 28 degrees, and Mercury trines Mars at 19 degrees in Aries. So more eclipse surprises are in store. Mercury's on the south node, which amplifies this feeling of something is leaving, something is different now. It adds to that list of confrontations we're having over the season, right? So previous ways of thinking, old ideas, old narratives, these are all up for debate. A trine to Mars, kind of like the sun trine from 3 days before, offers more opportunity to upgrade our actions and to conscionably choose a path towards what we are moving into. Venus and Jupiter help us connect with others in a warm, congenial way. So even if we're feeling this sense of loss, the sense of confusion, we're able to bond over it. So the heart of that Sag season coming together to share things, that's still here, right? And that's important. So it's possible that we are separating from old personal stories and that we are coming together, banding together in order to write new stories, whether that's personally or as a collective. We're writing our new shared story, right? All right, so Chiron stations direct, finally. All right, so Chiron stations direct at 4 degrees on Tuesday the 15th. Blessings, because this was a painful Chiron retrograde. You may know that Mars entered Aries, hit Chiron, hit Lilith, and then stationed retrograde. So this year's had a lot of triggers. So at long last, Chiron stationing direct, we're making our way toward addressing all of the wounds that were brought up and exacerbated by this Mars trigger, as well as the retrograde. And Venus and Saturn are inspiring us to commit wholeheartedly to whatever the work is that's cut out for us to healing those wounds. And ideally, it's helping us step into some responsibility. And what I love about the word responsibility is breaking it down, because we think it's something, but really it's just the ability to respond. So Venus and Saturn come together and say, hey, I see these wounds. I'm going to fix them. We're not waiting for someone else to come and respond to them. We are responding to our own wounding. So it's a beautiful time that we can step into a sense of agency. We want to do the work that needs to be done. This is potent because Venus and Saturn are at the critical degree of 29 degrees. And after this transit, Venus moves into Sagittarius. So this is really Venus's final task, this message of heal your wounds before moving into Sagittarius, right? And the next day is when Saturn moves into Aquarius. Hallelujah! We had this briefly in May. We had a little dip of Saturn into Aquarius for 1 degree. It was a hell of a time. But we started understanding a lot about what the themes of this transit, now that it's truly here, are going to be about. Technology, resources to the people, accessibility, inclusivity, community. I'm going to say that word 12 million times while Saturn is in Aquarius. Community. What does it mean? We're going to find out. So finally wrapping up these lessons of Saturn and Capricorn. Goodbye, bless you, thank you. See you in 30 years. Okay. It's blessed also, Saturn moving into Aquarius, by the moon entering Aquarius just within hours. So the moon and Saturn are opposing entities. They handle completely opposite energies. And today, on this day, Wednesday the 16th, the moon comes through to Saturn and says, baby girl, I got you. So this is a beautiful day. It's setting us up for the other shifts that I'm about to explain to you. But it's ultimately setting us up for the Great Conjunction. So Saturday the 19th is when Jupiter also moves into Aquarius. So wrapping up Jupiter's time in Capricorn in detriment, now feeling much more expansive in this air sign, where it's able to spread ideas about humanity. Imagine. So on this day also, Venus in Sag trines Chiron in Aries at 4 degrees, and Mercury in Sag conjoins the Sun at 28 degrees. This last happened in Scorpio season at the very beginning, so it's been almost 2 months since we've had this connection between these two planets. That's important because they've both now spoken to the south nodes, so we get to kind of integrate these lessons with these two planets in conversation. What did we leave behind, and what is it opening us up to? How exciting is that? Venus trine Chiron offers newly direct, right? Newly direct Chiron receives healing from Venus. Here you go. I got you this. I got you some new stories, some new ideas, some new passions to breathe new life into this old wound. Mercury then moves into Capricorn on Sunday the 20th. So where we felt very expansive, very broad, maybe less detail-oriented, we are now very focused. Saturn and Jupiter have now left Capricorn, and Mercury is entering and saying, let's finish it up. Let's do the job. So for the next 3 weeks from this point or so, we can see ourselves moving through what remains to be processed from these several years of Saturn in Capricorn and this year of Jupiter in Capricorn. And lastly, we're ending on the winter solstice, which is technically the beginning of Capricorn season, but it could not be excluded from this video. I have to talk about the Great Conjunction happening on the winter solstice, which is beautiful. So we will get in depth into this, I'm sure, in an episode of Astro Squad. So be sure to tune into that, as well as we'll get more in depth with many of these other transits that I've spoken of in Astro Squad. But just know that the Great Conjunction is this beautiful shift into a new era, a new way of being, a new time. This ends the 200 years of Jupiter and Capricorn meeting in Earth signs. We've seen what that looks like. It's all around us. It's called capitalism. So moving out of the need to expand and solidify Earth and resources and stuff, we're going to be solidifying and formalizing some really humanitarian, community-focused ideas. And for the next 200 years, we're going to be seeing these planets conjoin in air signs and really showing us how we can expand, not in an earthly, tangible, physical way, but as people caring about each other. I'm so excited for this time. I hope you are too. So we'll definitely talk more at length about that in Astro Squad. If you follow me on Instagram, it's That's So Pisces. I guess that's if you don't follow me on Instagram. If you do follow me on Instagram, you'll see us talking about it there, so tune in. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. There's so much happening, and it's so surreal to be able to talk about it with you and share in these truly life-changing, generation-changing, system-changing times. So thanks for tuning in. I deeply appreciate your time, and I will see you back here next month with the Capricorn report. All right, everyone, take care. Thank you.